Hey guys, Ricky here. Man, it's been a day for me. So I get out of work. I actually saw this news when I woke up in the morning. I was a little torn on it. If you guys don't know, it came to surface that there have been multiple allegations about Cesar Chavez. If you don't know who he is, very influential in the Mexican American community as a Hispanic, as a 8 to 5 middle income manual labor worker. For me, very, always looked up to him. Loved his the things that he did for the Mexican American community, the migrant community. Very influential on actually getting labor started and getting worker protections for people that were working in farms in really dangerous conditions, being underpaid, being undermined. Very influential on actually getting those unions done. He was for what MLK was. I mean, what MLK was for the African American community. I'm not going to say he was exactly the same, but especially for migrant workers and for unionizations and people that really are strongly embedded in that working culture. Cesar Chavez is, he's a household name here in South Texas, and I would say pretty much all of Texas and California and all of the South and all of those migrant workers are very influential. And when the allegations came out, they're allegations, but they seem really bad. He was grooming young women, sexually assaulting, raping at some points through the 60s and 70s, through while he was actually pushing all of these union things forward and getting his name out there. He was using his power in negative ways, and we've seen this before, and it's not great. So very disappointing to see. But Greg, if there is a silver lining, Greg Abbott has apparently seen the light. He's gone full woke, which I appreciate. I think that's good. As much as I hate Greg Abbott and I think he's terrible for our state and I think he has a lot of bad ideas, this one I actually do agree with him. So I'm glad that he's finally believing women now. He's joining the Me Too movement and he's going full woke. I appreciate that. So he stopped Texas's observance of Cesar Chavez Day after abuse allegations surface. So on Wednesday, he announced that he is directing state agencies to stop observing Cesar Chavez Day as a federal commemorative holiday after the allegations have surfaced that Cesar Chavez groomed and sexually abused girls. I'm going to pull up the post here from X. This is coming from his direct account. The state of Texas will not observe Cesar Chavez Day holiday. I am directing all Texas state agencies to comply. In the upcoming legislative session, I will work with Texas lawmakers to remove Cesar Chavez Day from the state law altogether because, I mean, we Corpus Christi's running out of water. Our grid is constantly failing. And this is the stuff that we need to get our lawmakers doing, right? But pretty much in every state in the South, you take down a Confederate statue from the Civil War era and everybody loses their minds. And like I said, I actually agree with this. I'm going to get with you in a second on what I'm a little worried about and concerned about. But reports of the horrific and widely acknowledged sexual assault allegations against Cesar Chavez rightfully dismantle the myth of this progressive hero and undermine the narrative that elevated Chavez as a figure worthy of official state celebration. Yes, and like I said, what he did for unions and migrant farm workers and the Hispanic community in as a whole, I think is good. But like I said, you 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 don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. But at the same point, is when you have a person of power and you see that they're abusing that power and taking advantage of young children, young girls especially, and sexually assaulting them and sexually abusing them, it's important that we do bring that to light and we do demonize those people. My concern is that Greg Abbott has always been buddy buddy with Donald Trump. And Donald Trump is mentioned in the Epstein files thousands of times. I went ahead and looked up how many, just a quick little search. Uh, New York Times has it. Uh, they've identified more than 5,300 files mentioning Donald Trump and over 38,000 references to Trump, his wife, and his Mar-a-Lago club in Florida. So we know who Epstein is. We know this was a predator. We know that he was purposefully keeping names and files on people that were performing pedophilia, that were performing rape, that were actively, you know, hurting young girls. So I would say that when it comes time, and this is the midterms, so Greg Abbott is going to be up for election, is he still going to have the same sentiment with Donald Trump? Because if he's condemning Cesar Chavez with allegations, then I expect him to come down just as hard on his friend Donald Trump. And I would say, why is it taking him this long? These files have already started to leak out. They've been leaking out for months, and they've been coming out in a slow drizzle. Why are you not having the same vitriol and negative reaction towards your best friend Donald Trump? Get up from the wheelchair and get mad, Greg Abbott. What the heck, man? So, to me, this almost feels like one of those things that Republicans love to do, where they love to just cloud everyone's ability to see the truth. And in this case, like I said, completely on his side, actually. And I do agree that Cesar Chavez should not be celebrated when these allegations come out like this. But this to me feels like what Republicans love to do when they find a little bit of dirt on an opponent or a minority or someone that presents in his as it with his own words, saying that he wants to dismantle the myth of the progressive hero. When they get the opportunity to dismantle a Democrat, a progressive hero, a political icon that they don't agree with, oh, they love to revel in that. But when it comes to people on their own side of the aisle, all of a sudden, well, I mean, I just feel like we need more proof. I don't feel like we should. And that's the hypocrisy of the government. So once again, Greg Abbott, glad to hear you're finally, a wokester. We'll get you your little pink fuzzy hat. You can feel free to join us on our No Kings protests when we all go out there. We'll have a spot ready for you. But if I had to guess, because it's the midterms, when it comes time to have this same type of reaction towards his best friend Donald Trump, you know what he's going to do. Greg Abbott is just going to fall in line like he always does. So, like I said, disappointing on all fronts for me. But if anything, at least we know that Greg Abbott has finally joined the woke community. And like I said, we'll embrace him with open arms. And we are wheelchair accessible. So glad to have you in the club.